You know what I've learned watching all of you? The conference room froze. Every head turned toward the corner where Marley sat, her voice barely above a whisper, yet somehow filling the entire space. For 3 years, she had been the quiet one, the girl who took notes, nodded politely, and never ever spoke in meetings. Marcus Holloway, the 33-year-old CEO of Holloway Industries, looked up from his laptop, his tired gray eyes meeting hers across the mahogany table. He'd built this company from nothing after his parents died in a car accident 5 years ago, after his girlfriend walked away when the money ran out, after every safe harbor in his life had crumbled. Success had come, but it felt hollow. He ran meetings like machines, efficient, cold, transactional. But something in Marley's voice made him pause. She was 25, with kind eyes that seemed to carry more weight than they should. She lived with her mother in a small apartment across town, ever since her father passed when she was 17. That loss had taught her something about silence, how sometimes the most important things are felt, not said. "I've learned," Marley continued, her hands trembling slightly as she stood, "that every single person in this room is fighting a battle no one else can see." The room remained still. Janet, the head of marketing, blinked rapidly. Thomas, the CFO, who always seemed so confident, shifted uncomfortably. Even Marcus felt something crack in his chest, a wall he didn't know was there. 3 years earlier, Marley had walked into Holloway Industries with a simple dream, stability for her mother, who worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. She never expected to stay silent, but on her first day, she'd watched Marcus tear apart a junior executive's presentation, not cruelly, but clinically, without mercy. She'd seen the young man's face crumble, watched him leave the company that same week. Fear had kept her quiet. But lately, something had changed. "I notice things," Marley said softly, walking slowly around the table. Her voice was steady now, growing stronger. "Thomas, you always arrive exactly at 8:45, but 3 months ago, you started coming at 9:30. I wondered why. Then I learned your daughter started physical therapy after her accident. You never mentioned it. You just rearranged your entire life, quietly." Thomas's eyes glistened. He looked away. "And Janet, the head of marketing, who suddenly seemed smaller in her chair, last year you pitched that campaign about second chances. Marcus rejected it. Too soft, he said, too emotional. But I saw your face. I learned later that your brother just got out of rehab. You weren't pitching a campaign. You were pitching hope." Janet's hand covered her mouth. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Where was this going? "And Marcus," Marley's voice softened even more, her eyes meeting his with unexpected tenderness, "6 months ago, you started eating lunch alone in your office, every day. I thought maybe you were just busy, but then I noticed you'd sit by the window staring out for exactly 20 minutes before touching your food. My father used to do that after my mom's first cancer scare. He'd stare at nothing, trying to hold himself together." Marcus's jaw clenched. "How did she—" "I called my mom last week," Marley continued, her voice breaking slightly. "I told her I was thinking about quitting, that I felt invisible here, that my voice didn't matter. And you know what she said?" The room leaned in, everyone holding their breath. She said, "Marley, maybe you've been learning. Maybe silence isn't weakness. Maybe it's just preparation for the moment when your words will matter most." Tears rolled down Marley's cheeks, but she smiled. "So here's what I learned. I learned that Marcus rebuilt this company because he was trying to create something that wouldn't leave him, something permanent. I learned that Thomas would sacrifice anything for his daughter's smile. I learned that Janet believes in redemption because someone believed in her brother." She paused, letting the words settle. "And I learned that every harsh deadline, every rejected idea, every cold decision, they all came from people who were scared. Scared of failing, scared of being left behind again, scared of being forgotten." Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Everyone tensed. He walked toward Marley, and for a moment she wondered if she'd gone too far. But then he did something no one had ever seen. He extended his hand, not for a handshake, but palm up, open, vulnerable.
"Thank you," he whispered, his voice raw, "for seeing us." What happened next surprised everyone, including Marcus himself. He turned to the room. "Meeting adjourned. Everyone, go home early today. Spend time with whoever matters. We'll reconvene tomorrow." People sat frozen, uncertain. "I mean it," Marcus said, and for the first time in 3 years, he smiled, really smiled. "Go." As the room slowly emptied, Marcus caught Marley's arm gently. "Wait, please." They stood alone in the conference room, the late afternoon sun streaming through the windows. "How did you know about the window?" he asked. Marley's expression softened with understanding. "Because loneliness looks the same on everyone, Mr. Holloway. Rich or poor, boss or employee. My father taught me that before he died. He said the hardest prison is the one we build around our own hearts." Marcus exhaled shakily. "I lost everyone. My parents, my girlfriend. I thought if I built something strong enough, made enough money, proved myself, I wouldn't feel it anymore." "But you still do," Marley said gently. It wasn't a question. He nodded, unable to speak. "My mom also taught me something else," Marley said, reaching out to touch his arm, a gesture so simple yet so profound. She said that kindness isn't about fixing people, it's about reminding them they're not alone in being broken. Something shifted in Marcus's eyes. For 3 years he'd seen Marley as the quiet girl in the corner. Now he saw her clearly, someone who'd survived loss and chosen compassion instead of bitterness, someone who turned pain into perception. "Would you," he hesitated, "would you have dinner with me? Not as your boss, just as someone who'd like to learn how you see the world." Marley smiled. "I'd like that." Over the following months, something remarkable happened at Holloway Industries. Marcus started asking questions instead of giving orders. He learned names, stories, struggles. Thomas's daughter got a company-sponsored scholarship for her medical expenses. Janet's Second Chances campaign launched and became their most successful project ever. The quiet office girl who never spoke became the vice president of employee relations. But the most profound change happened in Marcus himself. He learned that wealth meant nothing compared to connection, that power without kindness was just another form of poverty, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone see your scars. 1 year later, Marley and Marcus stood in that same conference room. She was preparing for her first board presentation. He stood beside her, no longer as her boss, but as someone who'd become her dearest friend. "Nervous?" he asked. She smiled. "A little, but I know what I've learned now." "And what's that?" "That the most important words are often the ones we're most afraid to say. That kindness isn't weakness, it's the only thing that truly changes people. That every person we meet is carrying something heavy, and sometimes just acknowledging that weight makes it lighter." Marcus touched her shoulder gently. "Your father would be proud. Your mom, too." "So would your parents," Marley replied softly, "because you became the kind of man who values people over profit, who leads with heart instead of fear." He smiled, his eyes bright with emotion. "You taught me that. You and your silence that somehow said everything." As they walked toward the boardroom together, Marley thought about how far they'd both come. She'd found her voice, he'd found his humanity, and together they'd created something neither expected, a workplace where people weren't afraid to be human, where kindness wasn't optional but essential, where everyone remembered that behind every title and every desk was a person just trying to survive their own story. "You know what I've learned?" Marcus said, echoing her words from a year ago.
Marley looked at him, curious. That sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one paying the most attention. And that attention, that kindness of truly seeing people, that's the greatest gift anyone can give. She squeezed his hand. Then let's keep giving it. Sometimes we mistake silence for absence, stillness for emptiness, but Marley's story reminds us that kindness often begins with observation, with really seeing the people around us, acknowledging their struggles, and offering the simple gift of recognition. In a world that moves too fast, that values volume over substance, the greatest revolution might just be slowing down enough to notice the humanity in everyone we meet. Because at the end of every day, we're all just trying to matter, to be seen, to know we're not alone. And sometimes all it takes is one voice, quiet but clear, to remind us we never were. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.